Welcome back to the Titanium Hanger. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about the Fanstoys competition. Depends on your point of view. Maybe you have been waiting for the Fanstoys and you haven't bought some of the other options that are out there. Now you can see if that wait is paying off. Or maybe you picked up some of the other items and you might be wanting to trade up. So we're going to take a look at these coming up. So I want to start talking about Jazz, and this is their Jive, the FT48 Jive, and I have to admit that it does look pretty good. It looks pretty clean, and some of the good points are the rear wheel wells seem to be nice and narrow. Somehow they work some magic to narrow down those wheel wells to make it more tune accurate. This thing does look pretty good overall, and you're sure it's going to have the die cast, going to have the paint, but this has that combination of some metallic paint and some matte finish like we talked about last week. Here we go, the quick comparison to all the other ones starting at the top left. Generation Toy, Toy World, there's Transform and Roll Out, Make Toys on the bottom left, and then of course the Fanstoys Jive, all compared to the animation model. And so these all look relatively okay. Actually, I don't think there's a horrible option, but Generation Toy was not going for a G1 look, really. So that one, in my opinion, is different than the rest, but all the rest of them look pretty close. Is Fanstoys the best? Well, that's of course up to you. I do think it looks great, and I do think it matches the animation model the most out of all of these, even the Make Toys. I always kind of felt like Make Toys was good, but not quite great. Here they are from the back, and looking at all of them, obviously, Fanstoys cleans up the most. But one of the things that I've noticed that none of them can do is get rid of that back windshield. So I would think that they could have tucked that in, just put it on a hinge that would fold over and tuck it in. But maybe that's a little bit too much and would have made it too many panels on the figure. So I guess I'm okay with that. And actually, I don't really care about the back so much. They could have some kibble on there. It's not the end of the world. One of the questions that people keep bringing up is, will you be able to put the doors out? I don't know. Will the doors be able to fold out like we saw with the G1 toy and all that kind of stuff? So next up I want to talk about the Fanstoys Outrider FT25, and this does look pretty good. It looks pretty solid. See, the thing is that there's already good next transpots out there. There's a few other companies that made theirs, and people were waiting on this one because they felt like this one would be the best. Would have the best materials, look the best, and all of that. But they did utilize more of a matte finish on this, for the most part. Now, it does look like there is some of the metallic paint in there, and of course it's going to be made of die cast, and all of that. Overall, it does look pretty good. It does look pretty solid, and a lot of people don't like the way it transfers through the shoulders. Here's an old picture of all the competition and an old picture of the Outrider. I thought they redesigned it, but really it still looks almost exactly the same. Not really sure what took them so long to get it to market, but there's also the MMC version, which some people like the MMC the most. The Bad Cube I hear is probably not the best. I never messed with that one. And I do have a version of the MMC, so I'll talk about that here in a bit. Of course, X-Transbots, that's the one I like the most. And then Toy World made one, I guess, or did they start making it and give up? I'm not even sure. So looking at them side by side with Fanstoys on the left, X-Transbots on the right, they look so very, very similar. In fact, there's so many aspects of these that are almost exactly the same, and then slight differences kind of starting at the top there. So the hood of the vehicle mode is up higher on the Fanstoys than the X-Transbots. So looking at that, I think they both have a good head sculpt, or for the most part. Going down to the waist, they both do the waist a little bit different. It kind of depends on how you like it, what you like about it. Maybe a little bit cleaner on the Fanstoys there. And the legs overall are a bit cleaner on the Fanstoys, especially the feet. But still, is it worth trading up for another 150? Depending on where you get it, 180. So looking at the alt modes, the left is Fanstoys, the right is X-Transbots. And as you can see, there are different aesthetics to them. They both do things just a little bit different than the other one. And X-Transbots seems to have a lot more paint apps to it with a lot of the different little red and yellows and longer stripe and all that kind of stuff. And Fanstoys looks a little bit cleaner, probably more tune accurate. Seems like it's a little lower to the ground. That whole front grille goes a lot lower. So there's pluses and minuses to each one. Just depends on which one you like the most. And getting into the hoist, it does look pretty good. But some of the things that people keep bringing up is that whole gun thing on the head. So it starts to make me wonder, will there be multiple head options? So looking at this picture, you can see Trailbreaker has a whole separate armature for his triple gun that's going on top there. I'm sure there's an official ion ray or something, but will there be a separate head that doesn't have that and an option to plug that somewhere else? We don't know just yet. And one of the things that people don't like about this hoist is the fact that his legs are shiny metallic, like a chrome reflective look. I actually like that. Here's how he cleans up from the side and the back, and he is a pretty clean bot, even from the back, like pretty clean. So looking good overall, and it does match the character, the animation model relatively well. Here's some of the competition that's out there, starting from X Transbots BN, which most people believe is the best one on the market right now before Fanstoys comes out. Then there was the Bad Cube one, which some people like, but I think the legs look kind of strange. But actually, I kind of still like the MMC version, the MMC Artifacts Mastermind Creations. I think that one looks pretty good, and they do utilize quite a bit of the same engineering they did with their Sideswipe, which does make it look a little bit less like the original character model, which is fine with me, actually. Plugging the Fanstoys in right next to the character model, and it looks pretty good. It looks a little bit better than the character model, and I know this is kind of a dumpy character in a way. I think I like it looking a little bit better than the animation model. I'm okay with taking a few liberties to make it look a little better. Quick side by side. On the left is the Fanstoys version. Then next to it is the X Transbots, which most people feel is the best. I do like it, but there's things I still like about MMC on the right. So getting a look at all three of these, side by side. How does it look? What do you like the most? So next up is the FT49 Phantasm, or their take on Mirage, and I do think it looks good. Of course, it looks clean, it looks super tuned, and I'm still trying to wonder and figure out, is that blue going to be a metallic paint? But still, really doesn't matter. It looks great overall, and if you wait for the Fanstoys, I guess it's going to pay off. So here's where the real problem with the Fanstoys one is that I think Transform Element Mirage was a solid figure. It was a good figure, a solid release. I like mine. It looks very, very tune accurate. But here's the real problem, is that it was only $54. See, they reissued it recently for $54. And, you know, money talks and something walks, but that thing sold out everywhere that I've looked. And by the way, if you see it up anywhere, please let anyone know in the comments below, because $50 versus $160, yeah, and sold out at $160 for the Fanstoys version. But obviously the Fanstoys is a little bit more sophisticated. There's a little bit going on in the chest that they really do better. Some people discuss the waist and pelvis area, that they like that a little bit more. But more or less, the legs are very similar. There's a whole lot to it that's the same. I'm looking forward to getting them and comparing them. And I don't even think Sphinx is in the conversation anymore, but I put the picture up anyway. So looking at the alt modes, I think they all look good, really. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with any of the alt modes. And I actually didn't like the Transform Element alt mode. Turns out I had a couple of flaps that just weren't folded out, and everything fits perfect once you fold those two flaps out. Kind of a silly error on my behalf, but overall, they all still look really good. And so, really, I don't see a clear winner here. Do you? That would be MMC on the top right and TE on the bottom right. So going down under to the Outback here, looking at this, we do have Outback 52, and that's their, I think they call it Aussie. So it does look really good, and it is the best one on the market. And I've talked about this before, but I think that the paint scheme really does match the Brawn. And looking at it overall, we already know what we're going to get with this figure. This is a retool. They use different parts in it, but they still, I can see a lot of the parts that are reused in this. So I don't have a problem with it if they can keep the price down. Okay, so looking at it side by side with the Bad Cube Outback. Now, I do want to say that I never really was a fan of the Brawn from Bad Cube, and seriously not really a fan of the Outback from Bad Cube, but I kept the Bad Cube one because there was no other. It was the best that was out there, and I really do think that Fanstoys is a clear winner right here for a character that I don't think a lot of people are clamoring for, and I actually don't think it's going to be one that sells out really fast, everybody's got to have, but it's a bit on the obscure end, and I'm a little surprised that Fanstoys is even taking it on. So looking at the alt mode now, a lot of people do believe that the Bad Cube is the cleanest and has been the cleanest. That was a discussion with the Brawn back in the day when that one was released, but still, I do think that they both look good. I kind of prefer the Fanstoys one, but I think the Fanstoys one sort of matches the toy a little bit better, but it still looks good. Both of them look great, and hey, I just put my Outback in alt mode, call it a day, kind of what I did with my Final Victory Brawn, and yeah, then I can have that for reviews. But still, which one's better for you? Which one's better for your collection from your point of view? Poor iGear. Yeah, iGear was too small, wasn't really Masterpiece. I don't know if they were even trying to go for Masterpiece, but a lot of people felt like they were, and it's not even part of the conversation. Alright, so getting into their Huffer now. You've been seeing a lot of people with Huffer in hand, so this is really not something that's all that new. It's kind of getting old a little bit. But I do want to throw a few things out there. Starting at the left is the Fanstoys, and the next to it is the Bad Cube version, which is the reigning king until Fanstoys puts theirs out. And it's still not 100% a decision. It's still not a KO, a knockout win. This X Transbots, now the X Transbots one had a couple of issues with it. I do like the chrome on it in a way, but it had that lean back, fall over problem, and then the wheels all exposed. And then Final Victory, for the price point of being about $30 a figure, was actually a pretty good option, but overall it did kind of feel cheap, kind of look a little cheap, but it still got the job done size-wise, and it filled that spot. But really looking at it, it's just between Bad Cube and Fanstoys. And for the alt mode, I will give it to Fanstoys for the win. It is painted very well, it looks really good, and it kind of gives me that whole G1 toy feel, which probably matches the cartoon really well in the alt mode. That's one good thing about the G1. The G1 toys themselves match the alt mode to the show relatively well. And then, of course, looking to the right, the Bad Cube one, it's okay, it's just not great. So with the Fanstoys Huffer, this does bring up the conversation about their pipes, and I just was kind of drinking the same Kool-Aid everyone else was, thinking it's a retool and they're using a lot of the same parts. But several people have pointed out that if you really look at the lines and how the thing appears to transform, it's different than Huffer. There are two different figures with different engineering to look like they have the same end result in alt mode, which might be true. The more people that say it, the more I've analyzed these pictures, the more I think those people are actually correct. I was wrong. Yes, I admit it when I'm wrong. I might be wrong. We'll find out when we get them both in hand. Look at pipes in the bot mode. This is what it looks like compared to the competition that's out there. The second one there is Bad Cube, which people still feel is the best. And X-Transbots is the third one there. So I'm starting to wonder, would X-Transbots ever revisit these characters? Or is X-Transbots just done with it, moving on to do their own thing? I don't really want them to go back and make these, to tell you the truth, or remake them. I think that leave the past in the past, and let's move forward. But Fanstoys, I feel, is a win. They still kind of leave the wheels on the side there, but maybe that's part of the character anyway. I think we've already talked enough about Perceptor, but since there's more pictures, and that's the buzz right now, and X-Transbots is already shipping, Fanstoys is about to ship, you got your so Show Z is putting out the incoming shipment notifications, so pay for yours and get it shipped. So that's pretty awesome. Now, looking at them side by side, though, I do feel like the main difference is the shoulders. I do think they're both painted very well. I think the color scheme looks good. I think the aesthetic looks good overall. But X-Transbots wins with accessories and those kinds of things. Again, the alt mode is up to you in a way. So I think that they both look decent. They both look good. Interested in seeing how the Fanstoys is on the left in this one. And I'm interested in seeing how that transforms. Will it be better or worse than X-Transbots? I think these two companies both have their frustrating points when it comes to transformation, but I don't think that this is one of those figures. Yes, everybody says, of course, that this is the third alternate mode, or whatever, second alternate mode, so third mode total, and yeah, I think it's unnecessary, and I will never display it like this, so for me it's a waste to even bother transforming into it in a review, or any of that kind of stuff, but it's still there. Last thing I want to talk about parkour, and I have to admit that I'm not 100% sure if you can even pre-order it anywhere, not even Shows. I guess I need to look into that. But overall, looking at them side by side, I do like the Bumblebee as the best Bumblebee, the Takara version right now. It's the best looking one on a shelf. It's not perfect. It has its issues. Yes, it does. But the Fanstoys, in this case, definitely wins. It wins because the feet are cleaner. It wins because overall it looks and feels more solid and even more tuned. I mean, we don't see real paint with it yet, but here's the biggest problem. I think it's going to be a long, long time, many years out to get this figure, only because Takara is working on it. When Takara sells through theirs and it's ancient history, then we might start hearing rumblings in maybe 2 or 3 years that you can pre-order it and it's going to come out. But for the most part, Fanstoys says, hey, we have this, just wait for it. So now that we have the comparisons of all these figures side by side, I'm curious what everybody else thinks. Are you going Fanstoys? Are you going to not upgrade? Just say, hey, you know what? I'm happy with what I got on my shelf. I don't need to replace every single figure when Fanstoys makes it. Or you have Fanstoys fanboy 100%. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just up to you. It's your point of view. It's your collection and your money. Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. And Titanium Hanger out.